We spend the vast majority of our lives in a breathless chase. We are running a marathon where the finish line keeps moving, convinced that if we just accumulate a little more money, buy a slightly bigger house, or acquire that one expensive luxury car, we will finally arrive at the destination called happiness. We have been conditioned to believe that net worth equals self-worth. But in the quiet moments, when the noise of the world fades away, have you ever stopped to ask yourself if everything we have been taught is actually backwards? We often forget to ask the simplest yet most profound question: how happy are we, really? Does the success, the overflowing bank account, and the material abundance actually bring deep, resonating joy to our lives?
Today's story explores this very question. It is a tale about a wealthy father named Robert who wanted to teach his young son Ethan a lesson about gratitude by showing him the face of poverty. But as is often the case when we try to teach others, life had a different plan. By the end of their journey, it was not the young boy who learned the lesson, but the father who received the greatest education of all. Once upon a time, in a sprawling estate nestled within a gated community of immense wealth and prosperity, lived Robert Sterling. Robert was a man who had conquered the business world. He was the definition of success. His home was not just a house, it was a mansion, a masterpiece of modern architecture, with high ceilings, marble floors, and rooms that were rarely entered. He had a staff of dedicated servants who ensured his meals were gourmet, his floors were polished to a mirror shine, and his gardens were manicured to perfection. Robert owned a fleet of luxury vehicles, acres of prime real estate, and possessed every comfort that money could buy. If a new gadget came out, Robert had it. If a new fashion trend emerged, it was in his closet. He was the king of his castle. Living with him was his young son, Ethan. Robert loved Ethan more than anything in the world. He worked long, exhausting hours to ensure that Ethan would never have to want for anything. But lately, Robert had grown worried. He watched Ethan drifting through the halls of their massive home, surrounded by toys he barely touched and screens that occupied all his attention. The boy had everything a child could dream of, yet he often seemed bored or disconnected. Robert thought to himself, "My son has been sheltered his entire life. He lives in a bubble of privilege. He has never seen how the rest of the world lives, how people struggle just to put food on the table." A fear began to grow in Robert's heart that Ethan would grow up ungrateful, unable to appreciate the incredible blessings of their lifestyle. He decided that an intervention was needed. "My son needs a reality check," Robert mused, looking out over his perfectly trimmed hedges. "He should learn about the hardships of life so he can understand how truly blessed we are." So one crisp Saturday morning, Robert walked into the living room where Ethan was playing on a tablet. "Pack a small bag, Ethan," Robert said with a serious tone. "We are going on a special trip this weekend. Leave the gadgets behind. I want to show you something important." Ethan looked up, surprised but curious. "Where are we going, Dad? Is it a resort?" "No," Robert replied, shaking his head. "We are going to see how the other half lives." They climbed into one of Robert's less flashy SUVs and began to drive. They traveled far away from the city center, leaving behind the skyscrapers and the manicured lawns of the suburbs. The smooth asphalt gave way to older, cracked roads. They passed through industrial zones, then through rolling green fields, and finally into the deep countryside. After several hours, they reached a destination that felt like a different world. It was a very small, humble farm situated in a valley. There were only a couple of structures, simple houses made of timber, mud, and weathered brick. The paint was peeling, and the roofs looked like they had seen many harsh winters. This was the home of a farmer named Sam and his wife Mary. They were, by Robert's standards, incredibly poor. They lived off the land, surviving on what they could grow and sell. But as Robert pulled the car up the dusty driveway, Sam and Mary came out to greet them, not with suspicion, but with wide, beaming smiles. "Welcome," Sam called out, wiping his hands on his overalls. "You folks must be tired from the long drive."
Robert stepped out, adjusting his designer sunglasses. "Thank you. We are looking for a place to stay for a night or two. We want to experience the simple life." Mary stepped forward, her face lined with age, but her eyes sparkling with kindness. "You are more than welcome to stay with us," she said warmly. "Our home is small, and we don't have the comforts you might be used to in the city, but our hearts are big, and our door is always open. We will do our best to make you feel at home with what we have." For the next 2 days and nights, the wealthy executive and his sheltered son lived the life of the poor farmers. It was a shock to the system, at least for Robert. There was no air conditioning, only the breeze coming through the open windows. There were no servants to bring them iced tea. If they were thirsty, they walked to the pump or the pitcher in the kitchen. They ate simple food. Dinner wasn't a 5-course meal prepared by a chef. It was a stew made from vegetables pulled from the ground that very afternoon, cooked over a wood fire in the hearth. The bread was homemade, dense and warm. They sat around a small, scratched wooden table that wobbled slightly. At night, they didn't sleep on Egyptian cotton sheets or memory foam mattresses. They slept on thin mats rolled out on the floor of the spare room. It was hard, and Robert found himself tossing and turning, missing his king-sized bed. But he made sure Ethan participated in everything. This is good for him, Robert told himself. During the day, they helped Sam with the chores. They fed the chickens, scattering grain in the yard. They hauled buckets of water to the vegetable patch. It was physical, sweaty work. Robert watched Ethan, expecting to hear complaints. He expected Ethan to ask when they could go home, or to whine about the dirt on his expensive sneakers. But Ethan was busy. The farm had 4 dogs, scruffy, energetic mixed breeds that ran freely around the property. Ethan was laughing, running with them, throwing sticks, and wrestling in the grass. He was covered in dust, his hair was a mess, and he looked more alive than Robert had seen him in years. When the sun went down, darkness truly fell. There were no streetlights, no landscape lighting illuminating the trees. It was pitch black. But the lack of electricity didn't stop the family's evening. Sam, Mary, their children, Robert, and Ethan all sat outside on the porch. Without the glare of city lights, the sky was a velvet canvas exploding with diamonds. Millions of stars twinkled above them, a breathtaking display that Robert realized he hadn't looked at in decades. Behind the farmhouse, a small stream flowed over smooth river stones. In the silence of the night, the sound of the water was like a gentle, continuous song, more soothing than any white noise machine Robert had ever purchased. The family shared their meager food with genuine love. They told stories about the harvest, about the funny things the animals did, about the history of the valley. They laughed, loud, belly-shaking laughter that echoed into the night. The children played simple games with pebbles and sticks, using their imaginations to build castles and fortresses in the dirt. Everyone helped each other. When Mary cleared the table, Ethan jumped up to carry the plates. When Sam went to check the barn one last time, Robert felt compelled to walk with him, listening to the man talk about his love for the land. When the weekend came to a close and it was time to return to their life of luxury, Robert felt a sense of accomplishment. He looked at his son, who was hugging the dogs goodbye and waving enthusiastically to Sam and Mary. Robert thought his plan had worked perfectly. Ethan had seen the harsh reality of poverty. He had slept on the floor, he had eaten peasant food. Surely he would now appreciate the mansion and the servants. They climbed back into the SUV, the leather seats feeling cool and familiar. As they drove away, leaving the dust of the farm behind and merging back onto the paved highway toward the city, Robert decided to debrief his son. He glanced in the rearview mirror at Ethan, who was looking out the window, deep in thought. "So, my boy," Robert asked, a confident smile playing on his lips. "How was the trip?" Ethan turned his gaze from the window to his father. "It was great, Dad," he said sincerely. Robert nodded, pleased. "And did you see how poor people live?" "Oh, yes," Ethan replied. "I saw." "And what did you learn from staying with that family?" Robert probed, waiting for the validation of their wealth. "Tell me what you observed." Ethan paused for a moment, gathering his thoughts. Then he smiled,
a genuine, bright smile. "Oh, Papa, I learned so much."
"Thank you for this wonderful trip." "Go on," Robert encouraged. "What specifically?" Ethan's voice was full of wonder as he began to list his observations. "Well, Papa, I saw that we have walls around our entire property to protect us, but they have friends and neighbors who look out for them. We have high gates to keep people out, but their doors are always open to let people in." Robert smiled, faltered slightly, but he kept driving. Ethan continued, "I noticed that we have one dog and he has to stay on a leash or in the kennel, but they have 4 dogs and they run wild and free and look so happy. I also saw," Ethan said, becoming more animated, "that we have a massive swimming pool in the backyard that we have to clean and put chemicals in."
"But they have a stream that has crystal clear water, no chemicals, and it flows forever without stopping. It makes music, Dad. Our pool doesn't make music." Robert's grip on the steering wheel tightened. This was not the direction he expected the conversation to go. "And at night," Ethan said, looking up at the roof of the car, "we have imported lanterns and fancy electric lights in our garden to push back the dark. But they have billions of stars lighting up their nights. I've never seen so many stars, Papa." The father listened, stunned into silence, as his son's innocent wisdom continued to pour out. "We buy our food from the supermarket, and it comes in plastic packages. But they grow their own fresh vegetables and fruit. It tasted so much better, didn't it? And we have servants who are paid to serve us, but that family serves each other because they love one another." Ethan paused, looking at his father with wide, bright eyes. "We have a huge house with empty rooms, but they have a small house filled with laughter and stories." The car was filled with a heavy silence. Robert felt a lump forming in his throat. His carefully constructed worldview was crumbling under the weight of his son's simple observations. Finally, Ethan concluded, "Papa, thank you so much for showing me how poor we really are." The rich man sat in silence. He was speechless. The words echoed in his mind. "Thank you for showing me how poor we really are." His son had learned a lesson, but it was not the one Robert had intended to teach. The boy had looked past the surface. He hadn't seen the peeling paint or the thin mattresses. He had seen the connection, the freedom, the nature, and the love. Ethan had discovered that real wealth is not about the accumulation of money, big houses, or expensive toys. Real wealth is about love, friendship, and deep bonds with the people and nature surrounding us. It is about being content with what you have and sharing it with joy. Robert realized that in his pursuit of more, he had actually ended up with less. He had traded time for money, connection for status, and stars for light bulbs. From that day forward, life in the Sterling household began to change. It didn't happen overnight, but the shift was palpable. Robert and Ethan began to live a simpler life. Robert cut back on his working hours. He stopped buying things just for the sake of having them. They started inviting their neighbors over for dinner, something they had never done before. They spent their weekends not at gala events or shopping malls, but hiking in the woods, enjoying the simple pleasures of nature, like watching sunsets and listening to the birds sing. Robert learned that the richest people are not those with the most in their bank accounts, but those who have love in their hearts and friends by their side. It is true, of course, that financial wealth is an important aspect of life. We cannot be naive. We live in a world where we need money for food, shelter, healthcare, and security. A job or a business is necessary to sustain our physical existence. But the mistake we make is thinking that money is the only aspect of life, or even the most important one. We shouldn't forget the other pillars that hold up the temple of a good life: love, relationships, family, peace of mind, kindness, compassion, passion, and genuine happiness. A truly rich person is one who treats all aspects of life with equal importance. While the whole world is in a frantic race to make money, buy properties, and increase their net worth, the truly wise are investing in their net happiness. We often mistake the scorecard. We count the coins, but forget to count the hugs.
We count the square footage of our homes, but forget to count the moments of laughter within them. We often forget that true wealth lives in our relationships, in our capacity for kindness, and in our ability to find joy in life's simple, free blessings. Take a moment and look around your life today, right now. Do you have people who love you? Do you have a friend you can call at 2 a.m. if you're in trouble? Do you have health that allows you to take a walk and breathe fresh air? Then you are richer than you can possibly imagine. The poor family in this story, Sam and Mary, were rich in all the ways that truly matter. They had strong, unbreakable relationships. They found joy in the simple act of eating dinner together. They lived in harmony with the rhythm of nature. They opened their hearts to strangers without expecting anything in return. On the other hand, Robert, despite his millions, was actually poor in the most important aspects of life. His wealth had built walls, literal and metaphorical, between him and the people around him. His possessions possessed him. True wealth means appreciating what you have right now, not waiting for some future date when you make it. It means building meaningful relationships that can weather storms. It means finding contentment in simplicity. It means measuring your riches not by what you can buy, but by the love you give and the love you receive. It is the peace you feel when you lay your head down at night. It is the joy you find in the everyday moments, the morning coffee, the smile of a child, the warmth of the sun on your face. Don't wait until you have more money to be happy. That is a trap. If you cannot be happy with what you have, you will not be happy with what you get. Start being rich today. Start by being grateful for the breath in your lungs. Connect deeply with the people around you. Put down the phone and look at the stars. The real treasure is not what we own, but how we live and how we love. Now, I want to ask you a question, and I'd love for you to reflect on it. What makes you truly wealthy in life? Is it your family? Is it your health? Is it the freedom to pursue a hobby you love? Is it your friendships or perhaps a spiritual connection? What is that thing in your life that money simply cannot buy? Think about it, and if you feel comfortable, share your thoughts. It's important for us to remind each other of what really counts. If this story opened your eyes to a new perspective on wealth, or if it reminded you of something you've always known, but perhaps forgot in the busyness of life, please consider sharing this story with others. You never know who might need to hear that they are already rich. Remember, true abundance starts in the heart. You are already richer than you think. You just need to open your eyes to see it.